webinar for today. So before we start, we'd like to give you some of our house rules. Please keep your mic muted, off your videos when the discussion started, like, click, or clap if you like to react, click raise hand if you want to say something, or type me on the chat box. We will also have time for question and answer, so you can also write your questions in our chat box. To formally start our webinar, let us pause and put ourselves in the holy presence of the Lord, and let us all pray. Lord Jesus Christ, we have come together in your name to work for the good of our beloved students. Stay with us with your invisible presence and pour out the gifts of your Spirit on us. Make us work in a spirit of trust and love, as a spirit of prudence and understanding, so that we may experience an abundance of light, compassion, and peace. Let harmony reign among all of us, and let us keep our eyes fixed upon you. Amen. So once again, welcome mga ka-teach, mga ka-Acadev, to our webinar for today. Again, you are with us here attending your training with Acadev Training and Learning Center, and we have a core values. We have the core values of serving, educating, and reform. So we would like to say, show you some pictures, how we serve, how we educate, and we always visualize this reformation. Here in Acadev, we envision a community of competent, talented, and passionate educators joining our advocacy and having synergized practice all throughout the Philippines, and to deliver quality and compassionate education. All right. Hello mga ka-Acadev, mga ka-teach, magandang tanghali po sa inyo lahat. For today, I'll be your host. I'm Teacher Margot Palencia. I'm the Executive Director of Acadev Training and Learning Services, Quezon City, together with the team, Teacher Joy and Teacher Daisy in the house. So first, we'd like to check if you can see me and hear me well. So if you can see me and hear me well, please type 1 and 2 sa ating chat box po. So we are well attended again today. We have some people who are even in abroad. We have some teachers who are from Singapore. Hello po sa inyo. Okay, so for this afternoon, I would like to, without further ado, I would like to start and formally introduce to you our guest speaker. So this is the second time that we are having our guest speaker, and it's really an honor and privilege for us to have her here in the show. Artista po ito eh. So maybe you have seen her bio in our Facebook page, but let me do this formally. So who's our speaker today? She's the supervising producer and host at Net25 Kids. So sabi ko nga po sa inyo, artista siya sa Net25. She's a special education teacher and professor at New Era University. She finished her bachelor and master's degree at the University of the Philippines. She is also a council member of the National Council for Children's Television, representing broadcast media. And of course, she's also a fellow advocate. That's why she also agreed to guest here in Acadev. She's a fellow advocate of inclusive education, media literacy, and brain-based learning. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our guest speaker for this afternoon, Teacher Sally M. Lopez. Hi, Teacher Sally! Ayan, sabi ko sa inyo, artista yan eh. Diba? Natural. Isang natural. Alam niyo talaga, teacher, may napansin ako, mag-a-agree ka ba? Pag sped teacher, ba't ganun? Ang fresh.
Maganda po talaga mga
Diba no? Parang it really emits you na na parang, kasi siguro tanggap mo yung lahat ng bagay. Are you also like that, Teacher Sally, na
tama po yun.
Parang special education teacher ka, walang hindi kaya, no? Parang, lahat, lahat kaya mo, di ba? Lahat kaya mo mag-adjust. Kaya, siguro ganyan din. Kasi, marami rin nagtatanong. Actually, halos ano kami nito ni Teacher Sally, halos of the same age kami nito. Kumbaga, parang magka-batch kami.
Opo.
Pero, di ba, hindi naman kami
5
halata
years
na,
ago pa lang.
parang hindi naman kami halatang mag 20 years na kami sa field. O, di ba? Kaya masarap maging,
Opo.
special education teacher. I'm going to
Partida
turn,
pa po yan kasi nakapagsuklay pa po tayo ngayon kasi nasa bahay
correct,
tayo. Kapag
tama po.
nasa school
Tsaka,
tayo, hindi na tayo
opo,
nagsusuklay eh. Pero
pinaghandaan
okay
pa
pa rin
natin 'to.
yun.
Opo, nakapag-makeup na po tayo ng lagay na 'to, 'di ba? Kumbaga pero alam ko okay pa rin po kami 'pag nakita niyo kami sa personal. Wow,
Tama.
confident. Talagang love one another. So,
Opo.
before I turn over the floor to Teacher Sally, so today po, ako makikinig lang din ako. I'm very excited. Kasi, Teacher Sally, pag-usapan natin,
Opo.
there are a lot of people, because our topic for today is about team-based education or team-based learning in the
Opo.
home, parang in the home or online. Why po natin kailangan
Opo.
i-adopt yung team-based instruction? Kasi marami talagang hindi pa din masyadong
Opo.
aware, or they don't really have so much of an idea of
Opo.
the team-based. But why do you want to share us this topic? How can be
Opo.
it helpful to all of us po?
Opo. Well, basically po kasi, 'di ba, unang challenge po talaga natin for blended learning. Una, hindi natin siya naiintindihan kasi akala natin parang bago siya para sa atin.
Yes.
Kasi nga po, 'di ba, like bago siya, like wala na siyang face to face, hindi na tayo pupunta sa school, wala na si teacher. Kung teacher ka, kung parent ka, wala na si teacher para araw-araw nakikita siya ng bata. So baka naman ang mangyari na lang kung now, na lang, once a week na lang nila makikita si teacher, or baka hindi pa kasi because of technological difficulties, ganun po. Tapos, kung ako naman si teacher, syempre, bago para sa akin yung online teaching. Kasi nga, a lot of teachers I know now, parang sobrang pagod na pagod sila sa pagbabago po ng mga modules nila, paggawa nila ng mga PowerPoints, mga slides nila. So, they think, sobrang nakakapagod itong bagong nangyari sa atin ngayon. So, in the advent of blended learning, parang feeling nating lahat as teachers, ang dami nating kailangan palang gawin. So, si theme-based learning po, basically, it puts the practicality into the teaching. Kumbaga, kasi nga, we always have to spend time, effort, and energy in doing our lessons. Tapos si parents, kailangan din nilang mag-follow up sa bahay. So, it's another bulk ulit ng time, effort, and energy. Pag theme-based kasi, it's integrated, everything is integrated. So, kailangan mong makita yung big picture. Pag nakita mo si big picture, may isip mo na, okay, I have to plan in relation to the big picture. Hindi na dapat ako magpa-plan ng fragmented yung lessons ko. So, pag ganun kasi tayo mag-isip, naiisip natin yung output or outcome muna. Tapos, paano ko ba gagawin itong outcome in relation doon sa maliliit na mga bagay na activities na pwedeng gawin ng mga bata or yung tinuturuan ko. Makakatipid ka na ng oras, makakatipid ka ng effort. Tapos, ang output pa nun, overall, yung bata, mas naiintindihan niya, mas nagigets niya na, si fractions pala sa math, yun din pala yung ginagawa namin pag nag-debate kami ni nanay. So, hindi siya, kumbaga, it's the meaning, the integration puts meaning in everything. And it helps children draw connections into the real world na hindi pala nakahiwalay ang pag-aaral sa ginagawa nila sa bahay. Ayun. Yun po yun.
Yes, teacher. Kasi 'di ba sinasabi talaga nila na with thematic, because teacher, I'm with you. I'm also a believer of thematic instruction. Kasi pag SPED teacher ka, talagang magte-thematic ka 'di ba? Pero let us get things straight for our mga audience po. Hindi lang naman po ito para sa mga children with special needs, 'di ba? Teacher Sally. Kasi 'di ba po ang theme-based instruction, yan ang pinupush ni DepEd ngayon sa kindergarten, 'di ba po?
Tama.
Sa Omnibus Policy on Kindergarten Education, kung titingnan mo yung framework, 'di ba, teacher? Siya, child-centered tapos theme-based. So, it can be used po talaga for other 'di ba, levels, hindi lang sa SPED, 'di ba po?
Actually po, Teacher Margo, hindi lang siya para po sa hindi lang po siya for kindergarten. Actually, kahit anong grade, pwede
Opo.
siyang gawin. And if you are familiar with other, yung mga discovery learning na mga curriculum, so like
Opo.
Montessori, si Waldorf, at kung
Yes.
ano-ano pa po mga iba't ibang curriculum, yung non-traditional curriculums, thematic yung ginagawa nila. So every
Yes.
week, they have a
Yes.
theme or maybe like a unit which they work on. And then also, even with college, it's outcome-based education. So even
Yes.
before blended learning came in, there's OBE, there's outcome-based
Yes.
education. And if you have OBE, yeah, it has to be a theme. Like, for example, mag-hello na rin po ako. Hello po sa mga dati kong estudyante dyan, si Andrea Sabandal, isa na po yun, kasama niya
Yes.
sa Acadev. Hi din. Hello din po kay Patricia Ann Bolanari, nag-hi po kasi siya sa akin. Hi po kay,
Okay.
kay Miss Maria Corazon Kine, hello po. Kahit po sa college po kasi, pag nagtuturo ako sa college, yun din yung ginagawa ko, Teacher Margo. It's outcome-based, so we have to have a theme for the whole SEM. So if we have
Mm-hmm.
a theme, so gusto ko lang mangyari, let's do a SPED camp. So you're going to teach children of with special needs sa iba-ibang age. There was a time we had a SPED camp naman na hindi special yung tinuruan nila. Regular kids
Mm-hmm.
talaga yung tinuruan nila.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
still, it has to be thematic. It's art, there's music, there's play, there's movements, there's games, but it has to
Mm-hmm.
have a whole theme para lahat ng
Yes.
magpa-participate sa 5 activities na yon, isa lang yung nasa focus nila. So today we're going
Yes.
to talk about emotions. So all the activities are all about emotions. And it strengthens
Yeah.
also the learning. Ayun po.
Yes. Because, yes, I agree, no? Kasi I've read na sabi nila dapat learning daw, di ba, Teacher Sally, is connected to
Apa,
life. Kasi ang
apa.
hirap talaga, di ba? Parang ba, sulat ka ng sulat, pero hindi mo naman nakikita kung ano talaga yung maitutulong ng penmanship mo sa'yo. Pero
Mm,
I think if you are writing something which is really related to, that you
apa,
can use right away, di ba, mas
tama
gusto,
po, opo.
halimbawa, ito, teacher, itong
Opo,
ituturo mo sa amin today, alam namin makakatulong to. So, makikinig kami. 'Di ba?
apa,
Parang gano'n.
opo,
Ayan. So,
opo. Kasi basically, opo,
napakaganda. Opo, sige teach. Sorry po.
kasi,
Opo.
yung basically po, ano, okay lang po. Ganyan
Opo,
po talaga mga teachers, maraming kwento.
correct.
Ayun po. So, ano po, sa Teacher Margo yun nga po, it's ako kasi, honestly, naniniwala kasi talaga ako kailangan lahat connected. So, parang ako,
Correct.
from my experience, when I was in high school, kasi ito laging kinukwento ko sa ibang mga estudyante ko sa college. When I was in high school kasi, syempre I came from a science high school. So I studied na science high school. So ang dami naming math, ang dami naming science. Pero every time, I would always ask my teachers up front, teenager ako, sasabihin ko, Sir, bakit kailangan nating pag-aralan ng cosine, sine, tangent? Eh, hindi naman,
Correct.
pag umaakyat po ako ng bundok, aakyat lang naman ako ng bundok, ah. Hindi ko naman kukunin yung cosine, sine, tangent niyan.
Correct.
Tas
Correct.
yun. And then there's another teacher, but really like my teacher po in chemistry. Kasi yung chemistry teacher ko, it was a really hard, syempre, when you're doing like, ano yung mga protons, yung mga ganun, yung mga
Mm.
combination and stuff. Pero siya kasi, she would always talk about what are the what's chemistry in your daily living. So she would
Yes.
always talk about pag nagluluto ka, ano yung mga chemical reactions na nangyayari dyan. Tapos ganun siya magkwento. Pag nagtuturo siya ng chemistry, she would not teach us formula. She would teach us everyday, yung daily living activities na pag nagluluto ka, pag nagbe-baking ka, pag pinagsama mo yung Mentos tsaka yung Coke, bakit yan sumasabog? Yung ganun, so ganun. So,
Ah.
when I became a teacher, I realized, even not just for my children, with my students with special needs, even with regular kids that I teach, or even
Yes.
college students I teach, I would always put a meaning into whatever I'm teaching. So kahit na iba yung meaning para sa akin, I try to come up with an activity na you have to put meaning in whatever you're doing para masanay ka. Pag nagtuturo ka, magkaroon din ng connection yon para sa kanila. Ayun, Teacher Margo.
So it's a very very nice
Apa,
opening salvo mga ka-teach. I hope before ko ibigay talaga completely yung floor kay Teacher Sally, mga ka-teach, hindi niyo po kailangang you don't need to screenshot her lecture. We will give you handout. She's very
apa,
generous of giving us handouts. Meron
apa,
pa siyang binigay sa ating template. Thank you so much, Teacher Sally, for giving us that. So, what you can do
apa.
po, I hope you have pen and papers with you. You just write down the explanation going to be given by Teacher Sally, and then we're good to go. So, hindi nyo po kailangan kopyahin lahat. So, teacher, thank you
Apa,
again in advance for all the learnings that you are going to
apa,
share.
apa.
Makikinig din po ako dito. So, we
Ay,
will
sige po.
have, we will give you 50 minutes for the first part of the
Apa,
discussion. Thank you, Ka-Teach.
apa.
I'll give the floor to Teacher Sally. See you later, Teach.
Yay! Apa. Thank
Hey.
you po. Yan po. Good afternoon po ulit sa ating lahat. So basically po, what we will be discussing ay ito po. I'll try to make it as practical as I can po para po lahat po tayo mas matututong mabuti. So basically, what we will be discussing is, ay sorry po lang. Okay. We will be discussing utilizing theme-based a theme-based teaching in online and home-based programs. So baka marami na rin po sa inyo, medyo familiar na rin po kayo with a theme-based teaching approach. So basically, the theme-based teaching approach is just using topics or themes. But today, we will be discussing on why we're supposed to use theme-based teaching approach and why is it practical for us to use this. Ang isa rin po na ituturo din po namin sa inyo is to come up, I will be showing you a template tulad po na nabanggit ni Teacher Margo kanina. I will be teaching you using a template. I will be giving you a template po of how can you come up with a theme-based teaching approach na kahit na ginagamit niyo pa rin yung most essential learning competencies from DepEd, and how can we put everything together. So basically, this webinar po aims to teach participants about utilizing or using a theme-based teaching approach when doing online classes. It will discuss the importance of this approach and how it can be used to help kids or children, students, generalize lessons between different learning content areas as well as learning environments. This webinar may also provide insight to teachers and parents as how to increase collaboration using a functional teaching approach. So basically, let's do an introduction first po. So my introduction is all about the fundamentals of learning. So because this is an approach, we have to think about why are we going to do this? So, yan po muna. Pag-isipan po muna natin lahat to. You can answer po and then pwede nyo i-chat. Pag may tanong po ako, pwede nyo pong i-chat yung mga sagot po ninyo. So, our first questions would be, what are common questions you have in mind when teaching your students in relation to lesson planning? So, ano yung mga kadalasan naiisip nyo po kapag nagle-lesson planning po kayo? So, yun. So, ano yung mga questions na yun? Yung questions ba na ito, ano-ano yung naiisip yung questions in relation to concepts learned? Kung paano ba matatagalan ng ma-retain sa mga bata yung concept na natututunan nila. May mga tanong po ba kayo with regards to generalizing lessons learned and applying to other settings? So, basically po, pwede nyo pong i-chat na lang po para mamaya nababasa rin po natin yung mga questions ninyo. Ayun. So, ito po yung dapat nating pag-isipan. Bakit natin ito ginagawa? Does your child or student have the tendency to forget a concept he or she just learned? Marami sa atin yan. Ang gagawin po natin would be, isipin natin, yung mga estudyante ba kayo na mabilis makalimot ng lesson? Yung kakaturo nyo lang and yet, nakalimutan na nila agad. Ganon. And then, is your child or student unable to perform a task at home even if learned accordingly in school? Halimbawa, natutunan niya ito sa school. Pagdating sa bahay, hindi niya na maintindihan yung lesson pag ibang tao na yung nagtuturo sa kanya. Or baliktad, ituro siyang mabuti ng parent or ng tutor niya sa bahay, pero pagdating niya sa school, hindi pa rin pala niya naintindihan. And then, another question is, does your child have difficulty making connections between lessons learned? Tulad ng example ko kanina, halimbawa po, fractions. Naiintindihan niya yung fractions pag nagbe-break kayo. Pero hindi niya naiintindihan ang fractions kapag nagsasagot siya ng worksheet sa math. Or pwedeng baliktad. Naiintindihan niya yung addition, subtraction sa school or sa worksheet. Pero bakit hindi niya ito ma-apply pagdating sa problem solving pag nandun na siya sa palengke or nandun siya sa tindahan at bumibili siya? Ayun po. So kung ang sagot po natin sa lahat ng yan, and if our answer sa lahat po ng questions na yan ay yes, tandaan po natin that It might be that another teaching style can be enforced to help your child or student learn efficiently. Kasi po, one of the things I learned in my many years of teaching is that when my students cannot understand a concept, I don't think about yung bata ba talaga agad ang rason. Baka siya ba nagre-regress na ba agad yung skills niya? Nagkakaroon na ba talaga siya ng stumbling block sa learning? Ang iniisip ko munang una ay baka yung pagtuturo ko, it's my way of teaching, affects how my student is thinking. So baka ako yung kailangan mag-adjust doon sa sitwasyon ng bata. So I have to come up with another teaching style that will actually help my students. Ayan. And then this is something that you should always remember. Let's teach children to study smarter, not harder. Kasi di ba po tayo, when we were growing older, a lot of us would always say, our parents or adults would always say to us, you have to study harder. No, that's not the case. When I learned about the brain-based learning, you don't study harder. You have to study smarter. So how do we do that? Um, this is something that we should think about. A thematic teaching approach or a theme-based teaching strategy may be the right style for your child, whatever his or her level of learning is, because there is integration. So, dahil meron tayong integration that's happening, natutulungan natin yung bata na mapagdugtong-dugtong niya lahat ng natututunan niya. But before we discuss this approach thoroughly, let's have a review first of how children learn efficiently. Ayan po. This is the part where you have to answer po. So, pag nagtanong po ako sa inyo, you have to answer and chat just chat po your answers. Ayan. So how this is my next question po. How does a child's brain learn efficiently? Ayan. How does a child's brain learn efficiently? Meron lang po akong babasahin tanong po. Ang tanong po galing po kay Teacher Andeng, kaya ba nila ito? Ayun, mamaya masasagot po natin yan. Tanong po galing po kay Teacher Jackie Lou, if we change the way we teach a topic, does it mean we're not following the curriculum? Ayan, I will answer your question later po. Ayan, masasagot po natin yan pagdating po natin doon sa part po ng process of how to do the whole theme teaching. And then, so, dito po tayo. How does a child's brain learn efficiently? Yan. Do you remember these names po? Lalo na po sa mga education measures. Piaget, Vygotsky, Bronfenbrenner, Skinner, Pavlov, Bandura, and Maslow. Ayan. So, how do we brain? Sagot po ni Teacher Franco Bernadette, ni Teacher Badet, sabi po niya, how does our brain learn efficiently? It is when we relate new knowledge to previous ones. Tingnan natin kung tama po yung sagot niya. Sabi po ni Teacher Mary, when we provide activities that are relevant, meaningful, and interesting to them. Ayun. Tingnan natin kung tama bang tama ba yung mga sagot nila according to our learning theories. So let's match the statements with the theories. Remember po, the answer should be either si Piaget, Vygotsky, Bronfenbrenner, Skinner, Pavlov, Bandura, Maslow. Let's have a quick review of our educational theories. Yan. Whose theory is this po? Children learn through reward, positive reinforcement, and feedback. Children learn through when conditioning is instituted and the learning environment is controlled or structured. The answer po is, ayun, tama po. Ang sagot ay Skinner or Pavlov from the behaviorist theories. That's correct. Thank you. Tama po si Teacher Mary, Teacher Maria Catherine. I'm assuming po everyone's a teacher. Ma'am na lang po tatawag ko po pala. Maria Isabel Ligaya Francis, tama rin po siya. At sabi po ni Andeng, yay. Ayan po. Next question. Whose theory is this? Children learn through problem solving. Children learn through repetition as well. The brain finds patterns when learning new things, especially when associations with previous learnings are made through active participation. Children learn through meaningful activities and tasks. Thus, activities should be functional and applied to real-life situations. Ano po ang sagot? Is it Piaget or is it Bronfenbrenner? Wala pa pong sumasagot. Ayan, marami na pong sumagot. Janet, Mary. Ang sagot po ay Jean Piaget. Ayan, Jean Piaget's Theory of Cognitive Development. Pabalikan po natin yan mamaya. And next statement, number 3. Children learn when novelty or something new and challenge or something a little difficult are incorporated. Social learning is also important for children to learn. Kanino pong theory yan? Is it Vygotsky or Bandura? Ayan, tama. Sino po kaya ang tama? Ang sagot po ay Vygotsky. Vygotsky po. It's because of the words novelty and challenge because it's the zone of proximal development. 'Di ba? Kailangan po hanapin natin yung zone of proximal development. Saan yung konting challenge pero saan siya comfortable when learning. And social learning, it's a Vygotsky concept. Ayan po. Tingnan natin sa number 4. Number 4 po. Whose theory is this? Children learn through experiences. Children should be exposed to a lot of opportunities in different settings. Experiences include modeling, socialization, and interactions. Kanino pong sagot yan? It's more po of, the answer po is more Bandura. Because Bandura explained po the theory po of the modeling theory where children would continue to have role models, and observational learning also is something that children learn through observations and experiences. Ayun po. And lastly, hindi po pala. Number 5. Children will learn more when learning is supported by everyone around them, by different people and in different settings. Children will learn more when human connections are strengthened. Kanino po ito? Is it Watson or Bronfenbrenner? Ayan po. Tama po. Bronfenbrenner is the correct answer. Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems. Ayan po. When there are more human connections, children learn more. Ayan po. Ang dami pong tama. Ayan, si Maria Catherine Malyari, ayan po, dami po niyang tamang sagot. At si Miss Janet Agura, ayan po. And lastly, ayan, either it's Maslow or Bronfenbrenner. Children learn in safe environments. Safe learning environments are ones that make children feel happy and make them feel it's okay to make mistakes. Ang sagot po ay, obviously, si Maslow, which yung kanyang pong theory ay hierarchy of needs. Hindi lang po ang pagturo, ibig sabihin po nun, hindi lang po ito ay tungkol sa pagbibigay ng concepts o ng competencies o paglinang ng competencies. Tungkol din po ito sa kailangan na address natin ang needs ng mga bata. Sino po ang mga tama? Si Miss Janet, si Teacher Andeng, Miss Maria Margarita, Maria Corazon, si Miss Richie Rabasto at si Maria Catherine Malyari. Yan, congratulations po sa mga nakasagot. Ang sagot po ay Maslow. Correct. Ayan po. So punta na po tayo sa part 1 of our uh, of our webinar on theme-based teaching. These are the definition, benefits, and challenges of theme-based teaching. Babalikan po natin yung pong mga concepts po na yun. Ayan. So, ang question ko po sa inyo, susunod, ay what are the keywords? So, for us to understand the benefits of team-based teaching, let's go back to all those statements and figure out what are the keywords that teachers and parents should put in mind when developing efficient programs for children. So, putting together all these statements, what do you think are the keywords for each one? So, pwede rin niyo pong sagot po din sa chat. Sagutin niyo po ito. Okay? Sabi po kanina sa atin, Skinner Pavlov said, children learn through reward, positive reinforcement, and feedback. Children learn when conditioning is instituted and the learning environment is controlled or structured. What do you think po? These are the keywords. The keywords would be reward, positive reinforcement, feedback, conditioning, and controlled or structured. So basically, we have to incorporate that in our program. Next. According to Piaget, children learn through problem solving, What else? They learn through repetition. The brain needs to find patterns. And then there has to be active participation. And children learn through meaningful activities and tasks. And activities should be functional and applied to real life situations. What do you think should be the keywords? The keywords should be first, problem solving. Your program has to have a lot of problem solving. It has to have repetition. There has to be associations with new learning to previous learnings. There has to be active participation, and activity should be meaningful, functional, and related to real life situations. So tatandaan po natin yung mga keywords na yon. According to Vygotsky, there has to be novelty, and challenge, and also their social learning. So those are the three keywords for Vygotsky. We have to incorporate novelty, something new, challenge, something a little difficult, and of course, there has to be social learning. For Bandura, the keywords would be, we have to give children experiences, there has to be different settings, there has to be modeling, socialization, and interactions. And for Bronfenbrenner, the keywords would be, there has to be a supported environment, and there has to be a lot of human connections. And lastly, for Maslow, our keywords would be safe environments, children should feel happy, and it's also okay for them to make mistakes. Yun yung isa sa mga bagay na dapat po naiintindihan din ng mga bata. Okay. So what is theme-based teaching then? After we went through all those statements, we now know that theme-based teaching addresses most of these keywords. As we have already mentioned, a theme-based or thematic teaching approach can help in making learning efficient for all types of children. Hindi lang po sa mga batang with special needs or differently abled or sa mga typically developing children. This approach can also be very helpful for children who are in different levels of learning. So, therefore, what is theme-based teaching? Theme-based teaching is also known as a thematic approach. It is a way of teaching and learning whereby many areas of the curriculum are connected together and integrated within a theme or topic. Also, theme-based teaching is closely related to interdisciplinary or integrated instruction, project-based or activity-based learning, as well as outcome-based education. Next, so what are the benefits and advantages of using theme-based teaching? Of course, students will be able to learn better if there is integration. When facts, ideas, and concepts are connected across subjects, students are able to construct meaning. When meaning is constructed, ayan po, there's integration. And when there is integration, the students are able to construct meaning. When meaning is constructed, therefore, there will be learning. Learning is reinforced. Integration and meaning are the reasons why theme-based learning is efficient. If you go back to the reasons how children learn efficiently, these are three words that are always coming up in theories of cognitive learning. Integration, meaning, and of course, there is learning. What else is another benefit? Another benefit would be theme-based teaching helps learning become relevant for students. Relevant kasi naiintindihan nila na yung lessons na inaaral nila from math to language to kung ano pang mga subjects na yun ay magkakadugtong sila. Therefore, mahalaga para sa kanila. It can also provide for lifelong learning for the students. Teams also make learning fun for students, and because learning involves their interests, motivation is reinforced. Ayun. Next. What's another benefit? Themes also make learning fun for students, and because learning involves their interests, motivation is reinforced. Ayan po. So basically, what we have to understand is that when we're doing themes for students, it has to be incorporated to their own interests. And when they are interested in something, therefore, motivation will also increase. Mas alam natin mag-stay on track ang bata kapag sila ay kapag interesado sila sa isang bagay. Parang tayo rin naman, pag interesado tayo, gusto nating matuto, alam natin na kahit mahirap pa yan, kahit magkaroon ng challenge yan, magsistay pa rin tayo doon sa pinag-aaralan natin. What else is another benefit? Another benefit is that theme-based teaching makes teachers become facilitators of learning, where the students are helped to learn for themselves. Ibig sabihin po niyan, we're not just teaching them directly and giving direct instruction what to do. We are actually we're actually helping them to discover the learnings that they should get from the lesson that we are teaching. Theme-based teaching makes teachers become facilitators of learning, where the students are helped to learn for themselves, and this approach retains engagement of students on lessons being discussed. Yan. Kapag po mas mataas ang interest level, mataas ang motivation level, therefore, engagement is also mataas. Ano pa yung mataas para doon? Magkakaroon din po tayo ng children become also very creative in their learning because learning connections are made. The theme-based teaching trains creativity of students while learning new skills and making connections with previous skills learned. Yan po. Next po, theme-based teaching can also encourage the family to be involved. Mamaya po yan po yung pag-uusapan po natin. How can the family be involved when we're doing theme-based teaching? And then, since the family can be partners with the teachers in providing functional and meaningful experiences for the child learning a certain theme, thus helping students draw connections from the real world and developing mastery of skills being learned. And last, another benefit and advantage of theme-based teaching is that this approach may use different assessment tasks. Hindi lang po yung written task, pwede tayong gumamit ng performance-based, pwede po tayong gumamit ng rubrics, pwede rin po tayong gumamit ng ano-ano pang kung iba't ibang mga assessment based on the theme that we are working on. Lastly, theme-based teaching can also integrate technology. It is also in line with the current blended learning trend where students are expected to learn through different media such as online, TV, radio, or printed means. Theme-based teaching compacts the curriculum, which eventually, we have discussed with Teacher Margot, saves time, effort, and even energy of students, teachers, and parents or family members. Ayan po. So basically, that's it. That's the whole benefits of, sorry po. Ayan. That's basically all the benefits po of theme-based teaching. If you have questions po, just chat na lang po kayo. And then I will go back po to your questions and I will answer it later. Okay po. So let's go to the challenges po. Alam ko ito na po yung isa sa isang tinatanong po sa atin kanina. If we follow a theme-based approach, are we changing the curriculum? But we will answer that po. Let's talk about the challenges first. Actually, there's just two challenges po which I wrote. One, students, some of the challenges teachers and parents may encounter in implementing a theme-based teaching approach is that students may lose interest or become bored by one theme. Pag ulit-ulit po tayo ng theme, most likely, children will become bored and they will not learn. Thus, teachers should be very creative. Yun yung challenge po sa atin. We have to be very creative. But I understand naman po, most of teachers are very creative when deciding themes to use. Some students may not participate due to low motivation or interest in themes being discussed. Next, another challenge would be it can be challenging for teachers to think of a theme that fits all competencies. When we talk about the competencies po would be, dito po sa Pilipinas, ang basihan po natin ng competencies is the DepEd, most essential learning competencies, or what we call as a DepEd milk. Doon po natin makikita yung mga competencies na dapat po nating ituro doon po sa bata. What else? In summary po, even though teachers or parents or family members instructing students may find theme-based teaching challenging, mas marami pa rin pong advantages ng theme-based teaching kaysa po sa disadvantages. The key to making theme-based theme-based teaching successful, whether online or face-to-face, is planning. Planning includes knowing your students really well in order to determine the themes that should be implemented in the program. Planning will also include a lot of creativity from the teachers, and it will also include a lot of thinking from our part. Which naman po, hindi naman siya ganun ka-burden kasi nga po, kinuha lang din po natin, pinagdugtong-dugtong lang din natin po lahat ng lessons na atin pong ginagawa na sa estudyante natin. Meron pong nagtanong sa atin po, ang sabi po niya, are there publishers who can supply theme-based materials? Basically, theme-based materials po are you don't really have to have a certain book for it. You just you need yourself actually. Ikaw po yung pinakamagandang resource. Not the books, it's you. And then that's what we're going to talk about in our part 2. Ayan po. Pero bago po tayo pumunta kay part 2, check ko lang po yung oras. Ayan po. Teacher Margo, ilang minutes na po?
Hi, Teach!
Ay, ayan.
Ako po yung magtatanong sa inyo. Ako po yung magtatanong ng question sa inyo. Sige po. Voice over lang po muna ako. Teach, yung unang question po, ay sige, papakita ko na nga lang yung mukha ko. Ano po, yung unang question po was, yun nga po, if we change po daw ba the way we teach a topic, does it mean na we are not following the curriculum?
Ayun. Kasi po sa part 2 po natin yun masasagot, Teacher Margo. Basically,
okay po.
Sa part 2 po, I will be doing po the thematic teaching unit. Tapos, i-discuss ko po sa inyo paano kayo bubuo ng theme-based teaching. Tapos, yung curriculum po na ginagamit natin, which I already emphasized a while ago, yung DepEd curriculum po natin sa Philippines, makikita nyo po doon kung paano nyo ba idudugtong yon dun sa theme-based teaching. So basically, theme-based teaching is an approach. Di ba po? It's an approach. It's not the curriculum itself. Although, there are schools doing a theme-based curriculum. Kasi sila po, they themes na po talaga sila. Like in kindergarten, sa kindergarten po, sa DepEd, talaga pong by theme sila. Like for this week, we will be talking about transportation. Next week, we will be talking about fruits. The following weeks, we will talk about vegetables. So basically, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to connect all the lessons and come up with a theme so that the students will be more interested in learning, especially if they're learning a whole module na parang, kumbaga, hiwa-hiwalay nilang gagawin yung 6 na module na yon. Paano kaya nila, if you want to teach essay writing, how can you actually make your student come up with an essay na matatapos talaga niya? So you're still doing the whole competencies on essay writing, but you're just trying to incorporate a theme or a topic para ma-increase yung interest ng bata. Ayun po. But we will discuss that more later po. Ayun.
Teacher Sally, and if I may share po, no? Kasi di ba po, ako po ay principal ng isang preschool, progressive preschool po kami. And kami po, team-based po talaga kami. Kaya, shout out ko yung head teacher ko, nandiyan din po sa audience, si Teacher Gail, Teacher Gail Tan. She's very familiar po with thematic instruction kasi po in Kids Coco preschool in Ortigas po, naka full thematic curriculum po kami doon. Kumbaga, kaya ano po namin, we really support this lecture kasi nga po, alam namin na how it really helps our students, especially na iba-iba po yung estudyante namin kasi marami po kaming estudyanteng expat.
Apo. Yun po, Teacher Margo, later po I will be showing them also po like an example of a theme-based curriculum for kindergarten. And then I will be also showing them a theme-based lesson. Na basically it's a computer lesson, but we integrated most of yung mga functional academics po. This is naman po a lesson for adolescents with special needs. Yung mga senior high school but with special needs. Ayun, mamaya ko po yung ipapakita. Ayan po.
So, Teacher Sally, I know that nagsalita ka na for 50 minutes, no? So, we'll have a 5-minute break. May timer naman po tayo.
stretching break, drinking break, wee break. So, mga ka-teach, mga
Opo.
ka-Acadev, standby po in 5 minutes. If you still have questions, you can type it in the chat box. Tapos, I will ask Teacher Sally when we come back, or after po, we still
Opo.
have a 10-minute question and answer portion. So,
Teacher,
see you in 5 minutes.
opo.
Thank you,
Teacher
teacher.
Margo, wait po.
Yes, ma'am.
Teacher Margo, singit lang po ako. Pagbalik niyo po, magdala po kayo ng pencil and paper po.
Ayun po.
Para po we can practice doing po the whole unit planning po. Ayan.
Yes po.
Thank you po.
So, please bring down pencil and paper, and sana naman po by this time meron na kayo nun, dahil marami nang sinabi si Teacher Sally na dapat po ay isinulat na ninyo. See you in 5 minutes, mga ka-teach.
Okay, thank you po.
Po. mga ka-Acadev. So, sana po nakapag-stretch kayo. Pero I know that you don't feel tired or you don't feel antok because for sure, eager na tayong gumawa. Malamang pinaplano nyo na kung anong mga teams. For sure, at this point in time, gumagana na yung inyong mga utak kung paano ninyo sisimulan to. Di ba, no, Teacher Sally? Pag may natutunan ka, parang mamaya gagawa na ako. Pag may naisip kayong, alam niyo po, ma-share ko lang, no? Minsan kahit isang, di ba, Teacher Sally? Kahit isang song, nursery rhyme, pwede mo siyang, kasi kami po sa Kids Coco, we used to, we use songs and stories and we teach it for like 1 week, 2 weeks, depende sa dami ng may i-integrate mo. Siguro po, dun sa sinishare sa atin ngayon, dinidiscuss sa atin ni Teacher Sally, siguro po kami sa Kids Coco ay isang affirmation lang talaga na it really works. Diba? Kasi teach talagang it really works po. We've been doing this for the longest time. And there are a lot of preschools din, diba? Teacher Sally, na talagang thematic ang kanilang curriculum. Thematic approach talaga sila. Okay, so again, I'm going to turn over the floor, the screen to Teacher Sally. See you in a few.
Yan po. Thank you po ulit, Teacher Margo. Thank you po. Opo, tama po yun. Yung themes po, hindi lang po siya topics na iniisip natin. Pwede rin po yung actually maging literacy-based. Pwede kayong magkaroon ng libro. Sa isang libro lang, yun na yung pinaka-theme nyo for the whole unit. Yung isang kwento, at pagkatapos, kahit nga isang object lang, pwede po yun na yung maging theme nyo po for the whole unit. Pwede rin naman po na isang activity, like a functional activity. Like if you want to do cooking, pwedeng cooking cookies. Hindi po pala kinukook ang bake. Ang cookies, baking cookies. So when you want to bake cookies, yun yung pinaka-theme po ninyo. And basically, you just have to i-chop nyo lang yon into different lessons or to different subjects. But with that po, let's move on to our part 2. Ayan. Ito po na tayo sa ating part 2. Our part 2, ayan. Again, yan. Part 2 is thematic teaching unit and actual planning for a thematic unit. Yan na po ang ating pong i-discuss for now. Yes. So basically po, what is a thematic teaching unit? A thematic teaching unit is a collection of materials, activities, and techniques organized around a concept or theme. Also, it is an organizational tool that allows a teacher to relate subjects to one another, thereby avoiding a program that is highly fragmented by isolated daily lessons. So ibig sabihin, this is where the saving of time comes in. So when you're doing fragmented daily lessons, like for example, you're doing math, science in one day, like 30 minutes for math, 30 minutes for science, 30 minutes for English, 30 minutes for, let's say, civica. Mas nakakapagod po yun para dun sa bata actually. But if you're doing it like integrated, it's an integrated lesson, it can help the child learn better and the child will also, hindi rin siya ganun kapagod. At kahit tayong teachers po, hindi tayo ganun kapagod. Also, thematic teaching unit also enables the learner to make connections among attitudes and skills as well as among curricular areas. Everything just makes sense in a thematic teaching unit. So, how do we plan for theme-based teaching in online and home-based programs? Now, we're just going to use the term unit as a generic term for instruction on a general topic. Like, for example, when I say theme, we just usually use the word unit. So, let's begin planning a thematic teaching unit. So, these are the things that we should consider when we are choosing themes or topics. So, step 1, yun po yung sabi natin, step 1, we decide on a theme. So, yun yung una po nating iisipin. We decide on a theme. What to consider when choosing themes or topics? First, we have to start with the child's or the children's common interest. Siyempre, kung marami kayong estudyante, like if you have, let's say you have 10 students in one particular class. Kasi di ba po ngayon online, you cannot do the whole 50. If you really have 50 students, you can't do 50 students in one sitting. You have to, kailangan putol-putulin natin yung sessions natin with them. Most likely, the most ideal would be 5 students, but if you can't, maybe you can do a 10 student class, or maybe about like 12 students class. But if you want to do a lesson with them, kailangan isipin din muna natin ano yung interesting topic para sa kanila. Teachers may also consider the curricular goals. Ayan na po, papasok na po tayo sa curricular goals. Ano yung mga kailangan natin i-consider? Curricular goals and objectives that teachers considers important at whatever should be taught. So, babalik po tayo sa curriculum po natin. Yung curriculum po natin na nandun sa MELC. Anong sinasabi po sa atin? This week, ito yung kailangan mong gawin for this whole week. Halimbawa, mamaya po, titingnan po natin yung DepEd K-12 and let's see what kind of thematic teaching unit can we come up with. Ayun, titingnan po natin siya. Pero let's just put in our mind na you consider the interest of the students, whatever topic is interesting for them, and try to figure out what should be the curricular goals and objectives that you should be achieving for a certain week of planning. So, to help you, a topic can also be connected to a previous unit discussed or maybe a timely celebration or event. For example, this month is July. Let's say we have classes ngayon July. Ano po ba ang July? Sa Philippines, July is considered Nutrition Month. So this month, dapat ang topic po natin would be related to nutrition, not necessarily food, but we can also talk about being healthy. We can talk about what should you do so that your body will be healthy. We can also talk about integrate values, like what kind of value should you have in order for you to take care of your body. Like we can say, you should always be respectful of your body. You always have to have self-control or discipline. And then, that can actually be, Nutrition Month can actually be a topic or a theme that you can be working on. And if you still have questions, kung paano nga ba tayo magpaplano ng isang theme, these are some of the questions that you can ask yourself. One, what are the interests of the students? What are the interests of the teacher? Siyempre, mahirap po kasing magturo ng isang theme kung yung mismong teacher, ayaw niya yung topic na yun. So, kailangan din, you can have a brainstorming. Actually, you can brainstorm with your students and then talk about what kind of topics are you going to discuss. Para nagkakaroon din po na accountability yung mga bata na, ako yung umisip ng topic na yan. So, mas magiging interesado siya at mas magiging motivated pa siya. Another question would be, what do the school's curriculum guides require? Ano ba yung mga inihinahanap sa atin? You should think about the scope and sequence that is already stated in the curriculum guide that you are following. That can be your theme or topic. Next, another question would be, what is developmentally appropriate for the students? Of course, the topic should be something that's not just interesting for a student. It has to be developmentally appropriate. I'll give an example po. For example, you have a student with special needs. And this student with special needs is, ang level niya might be, cognitive level would be grade 1. So, ibig sabihin, the cognitive level is 7 years old. But this student with special needs is already 12 years old. So, even if the student likes balloons, for example. The student likes balloons and cars. Yun yung interest niya. Pero dahil 12 years old na siya, let's try to come up with a theme or a lesson na hindi naman masyadong bata, na akma pa rin sa kanyang cognitive level, pero akma din sa kung ilang taon na siya. So like, if the student likes a color, toys, what you can do is, if the student likes toy cars, don't talk about toy cars. Maybe you can talk about, for reading, talk about the different logos and emblems of cars. So, pwede kayong, ang lesson ninyo would be figuring out ano yung Toyota, ano yung Hyundai, ano yung Mercedes-Benz, kung ano-ano pa, ano yung Volvo. So, from there, pwede maging functional reading na mas akma para sa edad niya. And then also, instead of making the student color toy cars in a worksheet, kasi nga, iisip natin dahil yun yung level niya, bakit hindi na lang siya mag-cut ng mga magazine pictures And then, napapractice na yung fine motor skills niya at yun yung gagawin niyang parang magbibilang sila. Or, if the student's level is just identifying numbers and letters, pwede naman din na he can come up with identifying numbers and letters in plate numbers. Yun yung activity na i-endorse natin sa parents para maging mas kapaki-pakinabang din para sa kanya. Tapos tahimik ba siya kapag nagbibiyahe sila. Ayun. And then, what else? We should also ask ourselves if will there be enough resources to teach this unit? Babalikan ko lang po yung question kanina. There's really no actual book that teaches us how to do theme-based, that students can follow what to do with team-based teaching. Ang team-based teaching kasi po, strategy siya ng teacher. So basically, what we can do is, we can try to find resources in the internet. Actually po, pag naghanap po kayo ng theme-based unit, sa Pinterest, napakarami na pong lumalabas. It's just a matter of choosing and what's appropriate for your students and what do you actually need. So, will you have enough resources to teach this unit? Tayo pong mga teachers, dahil nga po ngayon, nagbabago rin po yung ating pong sitwasyon. Actually, mas nakakatulong rin po yung sitwasyon natin ngayon kasi nakikita muna natin yung restrictions natin bago tayo magplano. So, ito rin isang paraan para ma-address din natin, okay, yung parents, wala silang material sa bahay. Wala silang ditong gamit. So, let's work on whatever we have when we are doing our unit or we're planning a theme or a lesson for our students. Last question would be, does a topic bend itself to incorporation of learning experiences from many curricular areas? Ayan. Yung topic ba na napili natin, mag-fit most of the learning content areas that we are teaching. Think about a topic that is just right, not too vague and not too narrow. What else? For teachers and parents planning for children or adolescents with special needs, it may be more helpful if you do backward chaining. Ang backward chaining po, ibig sabihin nun, nagsastart ka po sa dulo at pabalik. Pabalik po yung ginagawa natin. Parang sa college po, nag-iisip muna kami ng outcome, pabalik. Like if you want to teach how to do individualized educational program or IEP, we think about what should be the skills of the teacher, kailangan niyang skills para magawa si IEP. So, yun ang tinuturo natin. It's like backward chaining or think of the output or outcome first. From there, figure out the activities and instructions needed for your unit. This output can be considered the culminating performance for the whole unit. Remember that this should be functional. Yung po yung mga keywords natin kanina pa. Functional, meaningful for the students. Doing this can also be helpful for regular students. The output can become the theme for the unit that you are planning. So step 1 po is decide a theme. Step 2. Ayan. Ang step 2 po natin is to integrate a theme with existing curriculum. Yan po. Yan ang pinaka-challenge po natin. Remember that we have to review the curriculum guide. Basically, we have to refer to the DepEd's most essential learning competencies, review the topics for a certain period, like a week or a quarter, figure out what needs to be done for every subject, and write down the learning outcomes for the unit being designed. Incorporate subjects that related to the theme. Babalikan po natin yan mamaya pag tinignan po natin yung DepEd Milk mamaya. Step 3 na po tayo. Step 1, decide the theme. Step 2, integrate the theme with existing curriculum. Step 3, review the curriculum. Step 3 would be design activities and instructions as well as duration. Yeah. Think about the topics. Think about the activities that you will be integrators. And graphic organizers, if you're not familiar, graphic organizers are examples of this would be KWL chart, concept web or map, cause and effect chart, storyboard, or story map. Now, these graphic organizers can help students become independent and independent learners. Ayan. And then, corporate time, you will be spending on a unit. The duration of each activity as well as on the nature of the activities may vary depending on the student's level and performance. Tandaan po natin yung sinabi ni Vygotsky, there has to be novelty and there has to be a little challenge for students. This will also affect the activities that will be integrated in the unit. Ayun po. Sabi po ni Miss Jackie Lou, dapat pa magaling sa multitasking ang teachers, lalo na po if she's handling more than 5 students in a class. Totoo po yun. Kailangan po talaga magaling tayo sa multitasking, pero not in the sense na napapagod na po tayo. Kasi ganun po yung basically, ako po kasi natuto ako na ganun. Like, I handle po a special class of 10 students, 10 students with special needs. Yun yung una kong tinuruan po talaga na klase. 10 students, all with special needs, all with different needs. So, but basically, I try to multitask, but I plan my lessons really well in a way na hindi rin po ako yung sobrang pagod na pagod. Kasi if you keep on planning individually, ang mangyayari sa'yo, 10 times 10 yung pagod mo. But if you think of the big picture, magkaroon ka ng isang activity na pwede mo pala siyang gawin ng easy, intermediate, and difficult level, na isang bagsak, isang implementation, pero lahat ng needs ng bata na na-address mo, it is also very helpful for the teachers. Ayun po. Ayan, sabi po ni Miss Maria Corazon, yes, most especially sa atin na special ed teachers. Planning lang po talaga ang kailangan natin. Sabi po ni Andeng, begin with an end in mind. Ayun. So basically, ayun po yun. At sabi po ni Patricia Ann, hi Pat, learning in a theme-based instruction is more realistic and efficient. Totoo po yun. And then, sabi po ni Miss Janet, many skills ma-develop or ma-improve in a child in a theme-based instruction. Totoo po yun. Basta kailangan lang natin mag-plano talagang plano po ito talaga. Step 3, lastly, step 4. Ayan na po, step 4. Ito po yung gusto ko talaga po sa theme-based instruction. We create assessment that is individualized to the groups of students that we are handling. Kasi po minsan, yung assessment natin, nagiging parang one-shot lang yung assessment natin in a way na parang laging written assessment. But there are students, not necessarily with special needs, na kailangan po laging written lang. Hindi lahat. Assessment tasks and procedures can be based on the output required from the unit. Halimbawa po, a performance-based assessment can be conducted. This can be a form of a video assessment. Lalo na po online na po tayo. Hindi na natin sila nakikita. So we can actually do like a video assessment. We can use rubrics. We can use a checklist besides having a written test. Ayan po. So those are the 4. Hindi pa po tayo. Thank you. Those are the 4 po. Let's just review the 4 steps. Step 1, decide the theme. Step 2, Ayan. Step 2 po, integrate theme with existing curriculum. Step 3, design activities and instructions as well as duration or the time that you will be spending for the activities. And step 4 will be create assessment. Doon na po tayo I will be showing you po some examples of how you can actually do this. So, i-share ko lang po sa inyo. You can have ayan po. So we can have like you can just think about it like this. You're doing a theme, for example, a theme on community helpers for preschool to grade 1. You want to do a theme for community helpers. So basically, you think about the theme in the middle. So we have to figure out ano ba yung theme na makakatulong sa kanila. Let's say, Apo. Lagyan natin let's say you're thinking of a theme. Ayun. So, ang theme po natin would be community helpers. The theme, lakayan po natin. Community helpers. If your theme is community helpers, so that entails like doctors, maybe the places where they work, who are the community helpers, what kind of tools do they use. So you basically, that's the whole theme. And then you can come up with the reading part would be, kasi isipin po natin ano-ano yung mga subjects na pwede nating gawin for that particular theme. So maybe for reading, we can do all the words related to community helpers. So basically, you would say the community helpers, like words related to community helpers would be the actual community helpers, what they do. So meron na tayong, if you are discussing nouns, you can do nouns, you can do verbs, like what they do are verbs. And then maybe you can also talk about sentences. Like you can put together all these words in order for the student to have sentences. So it's not just reading, it's also writing and language. And then for art, maybe the curriculum entails that they come up with a mosaic. So ang nakalagay po sa curriculum would be for the student to come up with a mosaic. You can do like a mosaic of a community using recycled materials, and make a mosaic of your favorite community helper. Or maybe the student can actually go to the parent and ask ano po yung trabaho ng mommy niya, ng daddy niya, at yun yung gagawa niya ng mosaic o ng essay. Essay for the reading, for English, and mosaic for the art. And then maybe, if there's another subject, maybe for the other subject, ang gagawin naman niya is math. Maybe your lesson on math, ang sabi sa curriculum guide, is about time. So time, like maybe your problem solving in math can involve time. How can we integrate the community helpers in time? We can like say, Teacher Margot is a teacher who goes to school every day. Teacher Margot wakes up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then she has to she has to commute for an hour. What time does teacher Margot go to school every day? Or yun, so mga ganun po. So it depends on what the curriculum is actually asking you to do or teaching, what you're supposed to teach the students. But with that, you can just use the community helper as a topic for whatever you need to teach. Like for example, and another subject would be health. Maybe in health, like you have, ang topic ay, sabi ng curriculum will be healthy choices or things that you should do so that you would be healthy. So, maybe you can incorporate a lesson on kung say mosaic or a poster. And then they can interview a community helper and talk about what do they need, what do they do so that they would be healthy. So, isa pong paraan yan para gumawa tayo ng theme. So this is what you call a concept web for a theme. This is another way po of doing a unit planning map. This is more for the high school, higher grades po ito. Mas madami po tayong pwedeng isulat dito. So basically, in this unit planning map, we have the level, the course unit title or the theme, and then we have the approximate time or duration. It doesn't have to be one day. It can be like a week for one unit or maybe more than a week for one unit. Depende po kung ano yung gusto nyong gawin na theme. And then you go to DepEd K-12, and then where you would be writing down all the learning outcomes or essential learning competencies that you will be targeting. So for that, maybe you will be targeting, sinabi niya, tulad ng ginawa po natin kanina, isusulat lang natin dyan yan. And then maybe you have a culminating performance. Ano yung gusto nyong mangyari, matutunan ng bata after po ng lesson na yan? So isusulat po natin yung culminating performance. Halimbawa, ang gusto nating matutunan niya ay matuto siyang maghanda ng isang meal. So, pwede po nating isulat yan dyan. So, how to cook and prepare a meal. And then, with this part, we just have to write down all the knowledge and concepts that the students will learn. What kind of assessments or reflective activities are you going to use? And the skills and abilities or attitudes that the student should have. Yeah, and you can also base the concepts to learn and the skills, abilities, attitudes in your most essential learning competencies or whatever curriculum you are using in your school. And then don't forget to put down the scoring guide. Ito po, yung scoring guide can be something, maybe a matrix, a rubrics, a matrix, or a checklist. And lastly, don't forget to put your resources and references. I still have another, this one po is a little, ganito po kaming mag-lesson plan po, lalo na po for students with special needs. So basically, we just do a weekly planning map. Here are the competencies. It's the same thing. Theme, week, objectives, competencies, concepts to learn. And then we just put down all the learning content areas, my math, my reading, my health, at kung ano-ano pa po. And then we put down all the activities that we want to do. And then what are the concepts that the student should be learning. And after which, we will put a culminating activity or basically a home activity where we want the parents to follow up at home. And then we put here the assessment task or the scoring guide. Yun po. So, pero sa internet po, madami po talaga kayong mahahanap na mga iba-iba pa pong mga tawag po doon, unit, mga template. Ayun. May papakita pa po ako sa inyo. Basically, this is a theme-based preschool curriculum. Ayun. Ayun po. So this is an instructional program for a preschool curriculum. So we have like the theme unit, the unit for the whole like a quarter would be all about me. And then we have here the month, dati June pa po tayo nagsa-start. And then we have here the week number. For this week, the theme would be getting to know everyone or introducing yourself. And then the activities would be, there's a tabletop activity, there's activity corner time, and then there's outside play, music, show, and tell. So basically, the tabletop activity, ito po siya. So there's tracing name, cutting strips of paper, pasting paper to form a picture frame, matching identical letters to form name, matching identical names, identifying the names, and then we have for the activity corner time, we have art, playground, cooking activity, a reading activity, and then we have for movements, we have music and show and tell activity. Ayan po. So basically, that's how we just do it. Parang kumbaga po, it's more practical. You just think about all the what's essential. And I still have one more po to show you. I will just look for it. Pero meron pa po kayo sa papakita yung sa ano po, sa special naman, sa lesson guide for adolescents with special needs. But before that, pwede po ba akong manghingi sa inyo ng 3 minutes for every participant? Let's go back po to this. Ayan. Can you think of let's go back to this part. Ito po. Can you think po of, there. Can you think of a theme? Let's say, let's not consider first po muna the ano. Let's not think about the DepEd K-12 muna. Free flowing po muna tayo ng ideas natin. Can each of you po think of a theme or topic that you want to work on based on your experience already po? Think of a theme or a topic that you want to work on and then break it down into subjects. And then from that subjects or learning content areas, it doesn't have to be reading, math, art, and health. It can be other learning content areas. And then think of the lessons that you think can fit in that learning content areas. Pwede po ba kayong kumuha po ng paper and pencil and then for the next 3 minutes, Teacher Andeng, meron ka ba dyang timer for 3 minutes? Ayun po. So we will just do like 3 minutes and then think of a theme, topic, and then later on po, maybe can you chat po if you want to present so that teacher Andeng can can share the screen with you if you want to present. Kahit ano lang po, igaganon niyo lang po yung ano niya. Okay? Ready po tayo? Ready? Just come up with a concept web or a concept map of a theme. Think of the learning content areas and the activity. Okay, timer starts now po.
Just how long the time it took for me to get to you. And when the world said it's impossible, said it's improbable, the chances of me finding you, nobody knows how we go. Oh, we're alone. It's like we're home. My bones are asleep and my heart can rest, knowing it belongs to you. You. My world is changed and it's cradled by the comfort that is you. 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 You.
Okay. Ayan, okay po. Sino po ang gustong mag-present ng kanyang topic? Pero bago po kayo mag-present, I will be showing you naman po another document. This is because po in Erie University, I'm not just po a teacher for college, I'm also a teacher for senior high school teaching adolescents with special need. So basically, my subject is a modified computer class for adolescents with special needs. And then basically, we try to do our lesson thematic, but this is just for one day. So halimbawa po, ang theme po namin for the day is orientation on computer and introducing oneself. So yun po yung topic natin because it's the first day of school. So with that, meron po kaming like activity 1, then I put here yung lesson sequence ko, may activity 1, may discussion, activities that we are going to do. But if you notice on the second column, I have here the skills related to computer because that's my whole lesson. So these are the skills related to computer. There's identifying, naming basic computer parts. I have naming the functions of each computer, each part of the computer. I have turning on and shutting down computer properly, creating a document, encoding personal information, which is a vocational skill, and then telling the function of each part of the computer. And then we have a drawing in paint application using camera, retrieving picture. And then eventually, ito po yung, this is the part where the functional academics or the vocational skills come in. So we have here, it's integrated, it's thematic, but it's also integrated. There's a reading and spelling. You can see it, I'll make it bigger. Yeah, reading and spelling. I have constructing sentences to talk about the functions like I can print my document using the printer, or I can type using the keyboard. And then writing words and sentences upon dictation, encoding personal information, filling up personal information form, introducing oneself, and following classroom rules. So basically, tulad po ng tanong kanina, may libro ba talaga na nagtuturo kung paano to gawin? With us po, kasi we don't have like a computer, I don't have a reference for computers for adolescents with special needs. So basically, I really do my lessons and I try to make it thematic para mas naiintindihan po ng bata. Kasi if I only do the whole computer lesson, just doing the, oh, what's this, anong part ng computer to, anong ganito, walang sense yon para sa kanila. Pero magkakaroon yun ng sense pag ginamit nila, oh, let's research, who's your favorite singer? Sasabihin ng bata si Avril Lavigne. So, tapos isa-spell niya yun, tapos i-research niya yun, tapos kahanap kami ng mga YouTube content na pwede namin panoorin, tapos babasahin namin yung lyrics ng kanta. So, yun po yung that's another example. And I think, meron na po bang nag-chat? Sino pong gustong sumagot? You don't have to write it down naman po. Maybe you can just like tell us an idea. Maybe Teacher Margo, do you have a teacher po who can actually share with us po a theme? Ayan, si Teacher Pat.
We can teach, we can turn on her video, Teacher Andre.
Si Teacher Andre, magpe-present po si Teacher Pat Bolanadi.
Okay na po, I made her host na po. Go, Pat.
Ayan, go, Pat.
Ayan.
Naririnig po.
Yes, medyo mahina. Go.
So, yung theme ko po is about vacation time. Yun po yung napili kong theme. Sa reading po, ang nilist down ko po is yung spelling for the names of places, spelling names of transportations, and yung sa sounds po, soft and loud sounds of the transportations and around environment. Sa arts naman po, cutting and matching different transportation kung sa land po ba siya or sa water or sa air. And sa math po, basic operations for the expenses used. And sa health po, do's and don'ts while outside. So, yun po.
Ayan, thank you, Teacher Pat. Ayan po.
Yay!
May isa pa po. Ayan po. So, ang susunod po natin i-present ay yung atin pong tech girl. Ayan, Teacher Andeng. Teacher Andeng, go ahead.
Mapakita ba ako? Sige, wag na po.
Pakita ka na.
Teacher Gail, get ready. Teacher Gail. Nagsusubo na mga teacher nila.
Okay.
Teacher Margo, sabi po ni Miss Maria Corazon Kinay po, kung pwede daw po i-post na lang. Pwede niyo po siguro i-send. Can we send po like a picture po sa ano?
Yes,
pwede
yes po,
no?
pwede po. Attach
Sige
a
po,
file.
sige.
We can attach a file po.
Yes.
Sige po.
Alright. So, isa akin naman po, dahil nandito na ako sa tech, meron po akong, sorry. Ayan. Nakita niyo po.
Wow.
Ayan, so ang naisip ko po is, syempre po, Nutrition Month ngayon. And then, integrate ko na din yung sense of touch, no? So for arts, naisip ko po painting of fruits using sponge para yung sa object na smooth. So, parang pag ginawakan yung sponge. Tapos, sa health naman po, pwede may paliwanag na fruits are good to our health. And then, yung mga fruits na soft and rough, na may soft and rough surfaces. And then, sa math naman po, pwede pong yung printed numbers and then lalagyan ng salt tapos itatouch niya, no? Habang binibilang. So parang meron din tayong for rough doon, no? And then last po is for reading. Yan, read names of the fruits and then stories about eating healthy foods. Yun lang po.
Thank you, Teacher Ande. Ayan, basahin po natin yung pong mga nag-chat po sa atin. Sabi po ni Miss Pam Kausapin, sabi po niya, ang kanya pong topic ay all about me. Reading name, age, and birthday, tracing name, identifying emotion words. And tama po yun. Math, knowing how many parts does your body have. Example, 2 hands, 10 fingers. Sa art, dressing up boy and girl using colored papers. Sa health, taking care of oneself. ADL, activities such as toothbrushing, toilet training. Tama po kayo. Good job po. Ayan. Clap our hands for Miss Pam. Sabi po ni Teacher Badet, ayan, Teacher Badet, ang topic po niya, ang theme po niya is butterfly for grade 1. Usually, 3 days daw po niya gagawin to. Reading, preposition, science, life cycle of a butterfly, math, calculating distance, music, song about butterfly, art, music, or hand printing, PE, symmetrical and asymmetrical movements. Oy, good job yun. Health, advantages of green leafy vegetables. Oy, okay po yun. So, pwede rin po dyan, actually, magdagdag tayo ng storybook, yung pong story ng The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Ayun, pwede rin po natin gawin yun. And then, we can also like do a language, like a pop-up card of a butterfly. Pwede rin po yun. Sabi naman po ni Miss Maria Corazon Tinay, nutritional foods, like, theme po is nutritional foods, vegetables. Reading, naming different vegetables, words related would be nouns, sentences, show picture and identify what vegetables are matching type. Pwede po yun, okay po yun. Paper crumbling with vegetables like eggplant, squash. Math, showing actual vegetables or pics and count them. If you have higher students, you can do a market. Like, pwede po tayong mag-money. Pwede po tayo dyan ng money. Good example po yan for teaching about money, going to the market. Yun po. So, paano siya magiging functional? Yun yung sasabihin po natin sa mga parents na pag online class, ito yung tinuro po namin, nagturo ako ng money. Tapos, kung pwede pong pag gagawa kayo ng listahan ng pupunta sa palengke, yun po yung pwedeng ituro naman ng mga parents po. Para kahit nag-work sila, makapag-follow up pa rin sila ng mga lessons na tinuturo po natin na teachers. And then po, discuss how vegetables can benefit the body, most especially now with COVID, to strengthen immune system. Ayan, good job po yan. Very relevant pa po yung topic. Culminating activity is how to cook a vegetable meal po with parents' assistance. Opo, good job po. And then, nilagay po niya yung scoring guide. May rubrics at checklist. Good job po. Ayan. Sabi po ni Miss Janet Agura, simple theme-based instruction for learners with autism. Ayun, basically po, Miss Janet, yung pinakita ko po kaninang computer lesson guide ko po on computer. Most of my students po are students with autism and with intellectual disability. So, kung mapapansin niyo po, may higher, meron po doon na coming up with sentences, tas meron din parang reading and spelling words lang. Kasi po, ano rin po siya, I'm trying to individualize din po yung lesson kahit marami akong students. So basically, I have, if I can remember correctly, I have 15 students. Pero hindi po sila sabay-sabay ng oras. So yung po mga students na yun, depende rin po yung ginagawa ko sa kanila. Pero isang theme lang. Yung po yung hindi nakakapagod na part. Isang theme lang yung iniisip ko. Kahit iba-iba yung activities ko, hindi siya nakakapagod. Unlike iba-ibang theme, iba-ibang topic na iba-iba pang activities. Ayan, sabi po ni Teacher Andrea, shout out daw po kay Ma'am Badet kasi siya po ang critic teacher niya ng OJT. Oo nga naman. Sabi po ni Miss Maria Isabel Francisco, food. Opo, marami po tayong magagawa pag food. Ayan, si Miss Janet ay na-send, di po matapos. Okay na po yun actually, Miss Janet. Ang dami nyo na, ayan, ayaw nga po pala. Yung palang pong theme-based. Pero you can send pa po para mapasa pa po natin. Marami pong salamat sa lahat po na nagpadala po ng kanila pong mga sagot. Ayan. So basically, last po na isi-share ko po sa inyo, I know most of us po is very familiar with this na po. But if not, ayan. So, pwede po tayo mag-isip muna. Pag teachers po tayo, we can do like a free-flowing of ideas muna. If you think nahihirapan kang mag-isip ng theme, ang suggestion ko po talaga, ask your students. Especially if you're teaching regular students are very vocal of what they want to talk about. Usually on the first few weeks of doing your lessons, baka pwedeng tanungin din muna natin sila. Tapos, isipin din natin, ako rin po kaya ako natuto po nung first few weeks ko po talaga of teaching, nung batang-batang teacher pa talaga ako. Ano po siya, I usually think about movies. Movies yung themes ko lagi. Kasi yung lahat ng students ko, pag movies yung pinag-usapan, like I remember, malalaman niyo po edad ko, the first few years of teaching ko, ang pinakasikat po nun si Toy Story 1. So, kailangan ko pong panoorin si Buzz, si Woody, matutunan sila para makarelate ako sa mga estudyante ko. And napakaganda po ng mga lessons na ganun. So, and then, from there po, pwede po kayong pumunta dito. This is the Curriculum Implementation, Learning Management Matrix. This is the K-12. Yan po. This is downloadable. This is called the most essential learning competencies from DepEd. So basically, if this is what you're using po for teaching, you can just use this. Tapos, hahanapin nyo na lang po dyan kung ano po yung learning competencies na kailangan nyo pong isama. So, isip po kayo ng theme, isip po kayo ng topic, tapos hanapin po natin dito yung mga learning competencies na pwede po natin gamitin. Yan po. So basically, ayun po. Like for example, for kinder, but I know po kasi some of you are teaching in private school. So some of you might be having po other curriculums. You follow other curriculums. Basically for for public school, ito po yung ginagamit nila. So ito yung competencies. Pwede natin incorporate mismo yung competencies na to dun mismo po sa planning natin. So hindi tayo masyadong nagde-deviate. Ang challenging part lang po talaga dun, yung mag-isip mismo ng topic. Ano nga ba yung theme or topic na pwede natin gawin? Ayun po. And then, let's continue reading po. Ayan. So, let's continue reading. Ayan po. Ayan po. Ayan, thank you po, Miss Janet. Sabi po niya marami po ako na-share. Kayo rin po, marami rin po ako natututunan sa inyo. Salamat po sa inyo. Sabi po ni Miss Maria Isabel Francisco, ang theme po niya, food. Ayan, food po talagang pinakasikat na we will never go wrong with food. Lahat po ng bata ay gustong-gusto po yung topic na yan. Reading literacy, pwedeng categories of food like vegetables, fruits, desserts, meats, fishes, yan, junk food, kung ano yung sometimes food, all the time food, pwede natin ituro yun, which is healthy, which is not healthy. Sa math, ayan, pwede pong addition, subtraction using visuals of food. Actually po, pag food, dahil medyo malaki po siya, pwede po nating i-cut-cut po yung food. Pwede po nating gawin lang, desserts. So, pag desserts, papasok na po dun si fractions kasi may baking. May papasok na rin po dun for higher students. Pwede din po yung conversion of fractions. Ito yung isang topic namin dati. Medyo mahirap ituro po siya kapag, di ba po yung conversion of fractions, saka yung similar fractions, dissimilar fractions. Medyo mahirap pong ituro ang conversion of fractions kapag sulat-sulat lang. Pero pag nilagay niyo siya in context of baking, mas aiintindihan nila na wala kang one-half na measuring cup, anong kailangan mo. So maiisip nila ay yung dalawang 1/4 pala, yung 2/4 is actually equal to 1/2. And then, group of food. Sabi po ni Miss Maria Isabel Francisco, yun po, go, grow, glow foods. Arts, my favorite food, collage. Pwede pong gawin yun. For show and tell presentation. Show and tell is a good way po of doing language. Improving language with kids. Sabi po ni Miss Joan, tama po ba akong pagkakabasa? Joan Gailtan, Doll's World or literacy-based book. Tama po. The theme can be based on a book or a story. Country names, famous places, expressions like where are you from, where do you live, what's your name. For science, can be landforms and water forms. For math, money, currency, addition and subtraction, art, flag making, health, different foods from other countries. Ayun, good job po yun. Ang galing. You can also do this po with higher students. So, depende lang po talaga yun sa competencies na tina-target natin. So, yung sa competencies, kung medyo nahihirapan tayo makaisip, punta na lang po tayo sa curriculum guide and try to figure out ano yung mga competencies na kailangan nating ituro from the curriculum guide. Meron pa po ba? Ayun po. Good job. Thank you po sa inyong lahat. So, tandaan po natin. So, I'll just do a little summary of all the things that we have learned for today. So, basically po, we talked about utilizing theme-based teaching in online and home-based instruction. This is very beneficial po, not just for students, but also for teachers and parents. Also, it saves us time, effort, and energy kasi pag nagplano tayo, we always look at the big picture. Lahat po tayo, mas natututo tayo kapag lahat ng bagay is interconnected, kapag meaningful, functional para sa atin, tsaka meron po tayong output. Kapag goal-oriented po kasi yung lesson natin, mas matututo yung mga bata. Kasi halimbawa, if you're doing food and then alam nila na at the end of the whole 3-day activity, meron silang cooking. Alam nila na pwede na lang kainin yon. So, it's another goal. Mas magiging interesado at motivated sila. Ano pa po? And then also we learned that for us to utilize a theme-based teaching, it's not actually a deviation from the curriculum. It can actually help you develop, it's a teaching strategy that can help you make connections within the curricular areas. So these are the four steps po of doing or planning for a thematic teaching unit. 1, we decide a theme. So the theme can be interest-based, based from the students, what is the interest of the students, the teachers, etc. Can be based on the curriculum guide. Step 2, integrate theme with existing curriculum. Step 3, we should design activities and instructions as well as the duration. Lagay natin kung gaano katagal po yung lesson na gagawin natin. Ang tip ko po sa inyo, gumamit po tayo ng graphic organizers. Graphic organizers like the concept web, hindi lang po siya pang teachers, pang estudyante din po siya para mas nagiging independent sila in their learning. And lastly, create assessment. The assessment can be based on whatever your output you are expecting from that particular activity. Ayun po. With that po, we will be sharing with you po a PDF of my whole lecture. Nandun din po yung examples po ng unit planning map. Ayun po, sana po marami po akong na-share sa inyo at marami po kayo at nag-enjoy po kayo sa araw na ito.
Maraming kaming nakuha. Palakpakan po for Teacher Sally. Maraming salamat po for guesting. Sana wag kayong madadala. Again po mga ka-teach, si Teacher Sally, she's very generous. She's giving a PDF file of her lecture. So, kung yung iba po, mas may babasahin pa tayo. And she even included there yung graphic organizer kanina at saka yung yung for higher level. So, teacher, ngayon alam mo may isa akong na-catch dun sa sa pag-ano mo. Sabi mo nga tama ka, Toy Story, nag-retire na nga si 'di ba? Si Tom Hanks. Nag-retire. So, alam niyo na po kung ano na yung edad namin. Nag-retire na nga, pero kami nandito pa din. Pero, alam mo, Teach, kaya ka pala fresh kasi nga, hindi mo pinapahirapan yung sarili mo. Sabi nga, diba? Kasi one thing now, it's very, it's very good po talaga na na-share niyo yan sa kanila. Kasi, here at Acadev, kasi, Teacher Sally, ang isa talaga sa goal namin is to make it easier for our co-teachers. Kumbaga, shout out ko din yung isa sa mga speakers ng Acadev na nandyan ngayon and listening also to you, Teacher Michelle Brabante. So, hi Teacher Michelle. Siya rin po, we share the same advocacy like us na if we learned something or we have been practicing something in our careers, we share it to other teachers para, di ba, teach, hindi rin sila mahihirapan. Para mas yung energy mo sa pagtuturo kaysa sa pagpe-prepare. So, napakagandang malaman na pwede po pala tayong thematic-based instruction. So, yes po.
Just share po. If you have questions po, talaga makikinig po. If you have other questions po actually, You can, ano yan po?
Ayan po.
Ayan, alam ko. Ayan, you can contact me po. My Facebook po and Instagram is Sally.teacher po. Yun nga po, sabi po ni Teacher Margo. We also have po, Teacher Margo, if you want, meron din po kaming iba't ibang mga, usually we post po mga ano rin, teaching strategies. Sulat po ng ginagawa po niya. And that's my email address po, sally.teacher@gmail.com. Ayun po.
So, thank you very much because I know that this is not the first and the last. This is the first but this is not the last. Di ba po, Teacher Sally? And
Thank you po.
again, kasama na po kayo sa synergy ng mga edukador na we are really working towards, we envision that we make all the teachers empowered. Yun talaga yung ating goal dito. So, any parting words, Teacher Sally, sa ating mga ka-teach bago tayo magkaroon ng mandatory photo ops?
Hi, okay po. Ayun po, pamusin ko lang po, Teacher Margo, yung sabi po ni Miss Janet, parang na-meet na daw po niya ako sa PNE. Baka po, Teacher, Miss Janet, nung nag-talk po ako on early childhood special ed, I think, kay, Mr. Aldwin Felipe po, yung sa kanan. Anyway, hello po. Thank you po ulit sa lahat po. Tapos po, sana po nag-enjoy po kayo. At hindi lang po nag-enjoy, natuto po kayo ng marami. Yung po ang akin po, Teacher Margo, yun po talaga ang isa sa akin pong mantra as a teacher. Gawin po nating practical lahat ng bagay. Mahirap, hindi po talaga madali maging teacher. Hindi po talaga, planning pa lang, na siya, internal hemorrhage na siya minsan, di ba? Parang minsan, parang hindi mo na alam, tapos meron ka pang, hindi lang po lesson plan ang stumbling block natin minsan. Estudyante natin minsan po, lalo na pag, if you're teaching children with special needs, feeling po natin talagang sobrang nakukuha na niya eh. And yet, after 1 year, bagla siyang regress, wala na siyang natutunan. It's not the child, it's not also us. Don't be so hard on yourself. Hindi po. Baka lang po talaga there's other issues. Pero try to reflect on what you're doing. Baka naman po the teaching style isn't fit anymore to your student. And then also, if you've been teaching so for many years, baka rin kasi you got stuck with a certain teaching style. Napakaganda po yan. You always have to attend seminars because there's always a lot of things that we can learn. Tapos ngayon po, lalo na ngayon, kahit po nagkaroon tayo ng pandemic, this is a really good opportunity po to find resources po. Ang dami pong resources. Pero syempre, hindi po lahat ng resources na nandun po sa internet. Hindi po totoo yung, if it's in the internet, it must be true. Hindi talaga totoo yun. Hindi lahat. Kasi hindi talaga lahat pwede sa atin. Pero, ang dami po talagang resources. So, very thankful tayo na even if these things happen to us, pero kahit po, ganun pa man, marami po siya, nag-open siya so many opportunities. And then the online teaching po, honestly, just don't be hard on yourself. Kung hindi niyo po naiintindihan, like, if there's a software that your school is implementing and you can't really understand it, okay lang po yun. Kasi, there's always this point na maiintindihan niya rin po yun. Kasi nga po, ang mahalaga po, we always focus on the student na that the student should be improving. But don't, pag you think na hindi natututo yung bata, hindi rin naman kasalanan niya ng teacher. Ano talaga yan? Just do whatever you think is best. Tapos lagi ko po sinasabi rin to sa mga estudyante ko po. We always po need to work with love po. Yun lang naman po talaga yun. If you work with love, you don't work at all, and everything else po will follow. Ayun po. Teacher Margo, thank you po.
Thank you so much. Ako, Teach, as my parting words also, mute ako ng host. Ayan. So, ako, meron din akong takeaway, no? So, here in Acadev, we always use the word, ano ba yung takeaway ko for today, no? So, ako yung takeaway ko for today is yung mga, kasi ngayon, Teach, talagang yung hamon talaga. It's okay, Teacher Andre. Ang hamon po talaga ngayon is, they are really cracking their brains, or we are cracking our brains. How are we going to do it at home since na kailangan natin na gawin siya sa bahay with our module? So I think using thematic instruction will really help us a lot kasi sa thematic pati po, lahat ng areas of development, if you're dealing with younger children, if you're dealing with children with special needs, mako-cover natin yung 5 areas of development. Kung ikaw naman ay nasa elementary, nasa high school, nasa college, nasa junior high, senior high, sabi nga ni Teacher Sally, pwede na kasi magagamit nyo rin po yung mga subjects din. Kaya lang, to get along, ako ang takeaway ko kay Teacher Sally is, hindi mo naman pinapalitan yung lesson eh. Ino-organize mo lang siya into one concept para mas madali pong makarelate yung mga bata. Kasi I think Teacher Sally will agree with me. Teacher Sally, Teacher Michelle, who are here are all resource speakers of Acadev, plus Team Acadev, Teacher Daisy and Teacher Andreg. We all believe in functional literacy. So, I think yun yung pinaglalaban namin dito na kapag yung bagay na tinuturo natin sa mga bata ay mapapakinabangan nila sa buhay nila, magmare-retain siya kasi they get to practice it. Diba po? Kasi if you teach them, ako din teach, nakarelate ako sa sinabi mo kanina na, ba't pa tayo nag-aaral ng cosine tangent din? Diba? Kasi meron, nung high school, may electives din kami every Saturday para sa mga mag-engineering students. At hanggang ngayon, hindi ko talaga siya yung mga delta-delta, mga ganun ko talaga ba? Kaya there are some of my classmates who took up communication arts wherein walang math at all. As in, nagtanong talaga sila, parang they went to, parang Lasal, ano po yung course na walang math at all? I com arts. Sige, dyan ako. So, sobrang katakutan nila sa mathematics because hindi po na-relate. So, alam ko po, mga ka-teach, mga ka-Acadev, sobrang dami nating napulot kay Teacher Sally. Teacher Sally, we will really love to have you back. Sana po, maisingit niyo ulit kami sa inyong schedule. Welcome na welcome po kayo. Kayo rin po ngayon ay isang ka-Acadev na rin at ka-teach namin. Yes. So, mga ka-teach, we will stop from here. Thank you so much for today. We really hope that you got it all. And God bless sa ating mga ginagawa. Alam ko, busy tayo, naloloka tayo sa paggawa ng mga module. Again po, pwede na, kung gumagamit kayo ng traditional curriculum, pwede nyo po itong i-integrate kung hindi kayo magpo-full implement. Pero po, at least you have a choice. Maraming salamat mga ka-teach, mga ka-Acadev. See you next week po sa ating mga susunod na webinar. So, we have next Thursday and then the following week po. Maraming salamat. Let's have our mandatory photo ops. Paki-open po ang inyong mga videos. Thank you, Teacher Sally. Mabuhay ka po.
Thank you po. Thank you po talaga.
Okay. Teacher Andreng, ikaw na po bahala.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. Isa pa po. Second page po. 1, 2, 3, smile. Alright.
Maraming salamat! Sir Michelle!
Thank you po.
Thank you, Teacher Sally!
Po, ma'am.
Thank you, Miss Jackie, Miss Isabel. Salamat po. Sir Ai! Kamusta, Teacher Sally? Napagod
Ayun
ka
po,
ba?
thank you po.
Congratulations po.
Thank you po. Thank you
Congrats
po.
po.
Teacher Marco, may edit lang po akong isang sentence po doon. Tapos isend ko po yung PDF nung PowerPoint saka PDF po nung
Oo, okay lang
document
po. Ano naman yan, Teach?
Opo.
Pwede naman yan maghintay.
Opo. May nakita po kasi akong isang sentence na hindi kompleto.
Okay
Yun
po,
lang
okay
naman.
po. Kamusta
Thank you
po kayo?
ulit.
Nag-enjoy po ba kayo sa amin?
Opo, nag-enjoy po ako. Ang saya. Opo.
Masarap teach
Opo.
kasi alam ko na you teach naman in college, pero
Opo.
iba rin kapag po mababahagi niyo yung mga ganito sa mga kapwa natin
Thank you
teachers
po.
kasi
Opo.
kailangan nila. natin.
Opo.
Diba? Maganda
Thank
din
you
po
po
na,
nga po. Opo. Kanina nga po sabi ko po yung sa math. Actually po yun ang ano po, isa po talaga yan sa pinakamalaking problema ng mga tao. Akala kasi
Opo.
nila nakakatakot yung math. Pero yung po, pero sobra pong pinakamasaya talaga ang math na ituro. Kasi sobrang functional po ng math.
Opo, at
Anyway,
depende nga, teach, kung, oy, magbukas nga ngayon ng video. Teacher Daisy, anong nangyayari sa'yo? Ayaw mo sa amin?
Ay, ma'am, may tumawag po kasi.
Sorry naman. Ay, palakpakan mo. Ay, bakit ako pala walang video? Akala ko video ko na yan. Yay!
yeah, thank you
Yay!
po.
Thank you. Congratulations. Ang galing ni Teacher Saili. Ayan. So, alam ko ngayon, marami na tayo nakukuhang mga pool of, ano yan, Teacher Andre?
Notes.
Wow!
Wow, ding.
Ako din nag-notes din ako See?
Yan po. Tsaka po, pasalamatan po natin ng internet namin. Di po niya ako
Correct.
for 2
Alam niyo po,
hours.
pag pinagdadasal natin yan, hindi tayo pinifail niyan. Lagi po nangyayari sa amin. Lagi po nangyayari sa amin.
Takot po ako kanina, kaya po meron ako extrang kasi kung mangyari man po